All right, we'll move on to item 10, conduct of business. Item A, received an oral report on the progress of the San Bruno CalTrain grade separation project.
Before the construction started, before the construction began, JPB, Carol specifically asked me tonight to turn on the microphone. That's why I didn't realize that the mic is not on. Before the construction phase began, JPB and the city entered in a MOU and also in operation and maintenance agreement specifying and agreeing in detail that, what the responsibility of JPBs will be and what the responsibility and the role of the cities will be during the construction of this very major project, which the construction will last 2 years. In essence, what these documents really reflect is that JPB it is the responsible party for the implementation of the project, including quality control, public outreach, and proper communication with the city as an agency, and also proper communication and public outreach with our residents. The city's main responsibility includes the general oversight of the proper fulfillment of this obligation on JPB's part. In order for us to fulfill our obligation of as part of this agreement, the city entered in a contract agreement with PB, and Bruce Shushak is acting on our behalf and help us to fulfill that obligation. You approved that contract back in November of last year. This coordination and collaboration with, between JPB and the city so far on this project is very intense and very effective. They are ongoing daily, weekly field visits jointly between JPB and the city, also weekly and monthly coordinating meetings, including monthly coordinating meeting between JPB and all of the departments in the city. In addition is weekly update, how any concern on JPB's part, how any concern was addressed and resolved, any concern raised by any resident or anybody in the city, and also ongoing weekly updates are posted on the web and also communicated to our residents on the expected and upcoming construction activity on the project. I will let the project manager from JPB, Rafael Bolon, to give you an update on the construction, and all three of us will stand for question.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to give you a brief update, and I'm going to focus primarily on the next 3 months and the next 6 months, and we'll look ahead as to the impacts to the city. So, quick overview. The project goals were primarily to enhance safety at 3 at-grade crossings. There's a number of other improvements for traffic in the city in general, but primarily a safety improvement project. To do this, as you know, we're going to grade separate 3 crossings, San Bruno, San Mateo, and Angus Avenue, and include 3 pedestrian-only underpasses. 2 contracts have been issued, or 1 has been issued and completed, and 1 is in process right now for this grade set. 1 was for the box culvert. It was awarded back in February 2010 and was completed in October 2010. And then the main contract, which was awarded in July 2010 and is ongoing. So I'm going to go through some of the current construction activities right now. Mainly out there, what you see is a number of track activities, some civil improvements, some earthwork, et cetera, and a large number of utility improvements are ongoing. As to street closures, we had 2 weekend closures of Scott Street, and those are complete. We had 2 weekend closures of South Linden, and that's complete. And looking forward, we have a full closure of First Avenue at San Mateo at Melody, and that will be a permanent closure happening later this summer, as well as the cutover to the Shoe Fly, which I'll discuss later, but involves a major closure of all three intersections. So really quickly, some photos. Here you can see some of the track work going on. You're between Scott and Linden in this shot. Here is the shifting of the crossing at Scott at night, obviously. And here's some of the utility improvements that are going on. This is a new sewer line that's going in on First Avenue. And more of the track work, in particular here you see welding, again, going on at night, obviously. And finally, some of the preparation that goes in for the Shoe Fly construction. So the important thing to note from this slide is that the Shoe Fly will be closer to the east than the existing CalTrain tracks. So it will be closer to First Avenue and San Mateo than where you currently see the CalTrain in this slide. And then here is some of the new protection that was put in for the I-380 in the form of a crash wall. And some of the utility relocations. This is actually AT&T. We're moving some fiber optic cables. And actually in this slide, they're in fact lifting the fiber to get a sewer under it. So upcoming construction activities, like I said, I'm going to focus on a 3-month window and then a 6-month window. So this is the San Bruno, San Mateo as you see it today. Lumberyard off on the left-hand corner, top of the slide would be the freeway. And in approximately 3-month window, what you're going to see is the construction of that Shoe Fly, which again is a temporary bypass for our tracks, located immediately to the east. So you can see the existing CalTrain tracks, and you can see the beginning of the CalTrain Shoe Fly. So what's going to happen in the next 3 months? The main activities are going to be you're going to see the construction of the Shoe Fly, and that will be all the way from Scott Street all the way down to the existing station. So quite a bit of construction there. You're going to see some of the major utility relocations completed: the fiber optic, the AT&T, some of the PG&E work. And then the temporary station will be constructed immediately to the south of the existing station during that time frame, as well as there'll be a public outreach meeting. And unfortunately, I left June 29th on there. The tentative date is actually for July 13th. I apologize for that. So during the next 3 months, some of the impacts that residents may see would include, there's no more street closures in the next 3 months. So we're done at Scott and Linden. However, you continue to see lane closures at San Mateo, at Huntington, and San Bruno periodically. There will be some minor night work. This will be less than what you've previously experienced because at this point what we're doing is primarily testing, not major civil work like you saw previously. Air quality, we continue to monitor that and mitigate using watering to mitigate dust. And then parking, there'll be intermittent parking restrictions, primarily at Huntington and San Mateo, but on other streets as well. And so within a 6-month horizon, what we'll see is the Shoe Fly will be completed. CalTrain will then be running on the tracks to the east, and we will have demoed out the existing crossings at all 3 crossings. So by the end of 2011, this is that 6-month look ahead, we'll have cut over to the Shoe Fly. That'll take place sometime in early fall of this year. Immediately after that, pile driving activity will begin. So you'll see pile driving at San Bruno, San Mateo, and Angus all happening one after another. And then the removal of the existing tracks and excavation for grade separation. That's important to note because when we start excavating, there will be a marked increase in the amount of trucking going through there due to all the off-haul. And we will begin construction of the bridges at San Bruno, San Mateo, and Angus. So you won't see the bridges themselves, but you'll see the abutments, et cetera, going in. So again, some of the impacts that can be expected during this 6-month time frame would be the closure that I spoke about, which is a 1-week phased closure. So we will have Friday night through early Saturday morning, all 3 crossings, San Bruno, San Mateo, and Angus will be closed. The first to open will be San Bruno, which will be open that Saturday morning for emergency traffic, followed by later that day for regular traffic. San Mateo is the next crossing to open. That opens Monday early at 0500. And then Angus will remain closed for a week. So this is obviously a major closure. We'll notify well in advance of that, but that's the next and the last big major street closure. Also from a noise point of view, I mentioned pile driving. The pile driving has to occur during the day for obvious reasons, and so that will be an impact that those in the area will notice, no doubt. Air quality, we'll continue to monitor that. We'll continue to water to keep dust particles down. And parking, of course, we'll continue with intermittent parking restrictions in that area as the case may be. So just jumping ahead really quickly to the rest of the project, now with the shoot fly, you see the beginning of the MSC wall construction, and on the lower left-hand corner of the screen, you see the beginning of the pedestrian underpass, and what you see in the middle of the screen is actually the bypass for San Bruno. Because San Bruno doesn't move from its current location, we have this cowboy hat or donut, whatever you want to call it, bypass involved. And here further you see continuing work building the abutments, final street alignments, lowering of the streets, bridges under construction, part of the station completed, Posey Park up on the top right-hand corner, and then the final station alignment with the transit center and all the improvements in place. So some of the community outreach efforts that Clara mentioned. We've held community meetings. We had a project kickoff event to kind of shepherd in the project. We have weekly construction updates that go to city staff. We have weekly constituent contact reports where we report on all concerns that the community may have and what measures we're taking to address those. And we also mail and email out construction notices for various phases of the work, and I'll show you an example of one. So this just gives you an idea of the number of complaints and the number of resolved complaints. And I should mention that in addition, the city themselves have received 7 complaints, and all 7 have been resolved by city staff. You can see in just gross numbers that there does seem to be a trailing off. At least initially, there was a lot more questions. People were more curious than anything. As work has continued to progress, those numbers have decreased. And here's an example of some of the construction notices that you may have seen mailed out to the community. We do it in English and Spanish. And what we do is we target that towards both the specific area that is going to be most affected, as well as we try to time that so we're not too far in advance. We find if we tell people 12 months in advance, people just file it in the garbage can. But if we don't, we tell them a day before, it's too late. So we try to give them a decent window to find alternate routes if necessary. And again, the community outreach meeting that is taking place, and again, I apologize for the previous slide, will actually be tentatively scheduled for July 13th. It'll be held at Bel Air School as the previous ones were. We will send out a mailer as well as when we have a hard date for that, we'll post it on the city website so everybody has access to that. During that community outreach, we'll provide updates similar to what you just saw with specific dates and with specific impacts to the community. We'll discuss upcoming impacts and how they affect the community and answer any questions that anyone might have. And just in closing, here's a view that you may remember from the previous presentation, but here's a final shot of Posey Park from San Mateo, just so you know what we're all building out there. Any questions?
Good. Any questions?
Through the chair, just if you could just give us a quick update very quickly on what areas of concerns or complaints that you received from residents?
So the main concern, well, initially there were mostly questions about timing. We received a number of questions about that. We received a number of questions regarding utilities in particular. There were residents who were concerned in particular about drainage, and they had some pretty specific questions regarding that. Most of our concerns are resolving around night work. Obviously, people who are impacted during these weekend windows where we do have to do night work. And those, I think, have been the most recent ones we've got.
Okay, and then just obviously in the course of the work, if there is graffiti that comes up on various areas that you're working at or that you're responsible for, those are being taken care of in a timely fashion within our municipal code?
That's correct.
And then also, I know in the where the San Bruno lumber was, sometimes there's mounds of earth or whatever you have there. I've had some comments that at times, obviously there is a little bit of wind down there, at times. And so obviously some of that is going on to vehicles. It depends what's there. Is that going to be covered correctly or at least secured better so that we don't have that when the heavy wind comes through that goes on to parked vehicles or those that are passing by?
So this is dirt actually coming onto vehicles traveling on San Bruno or San Mateo adjacent to the...
San Mateo Avenue?
Yeah, I will definitely talk with Granite Construction, the contractor out there, and make sure they better secure those. I mean, those stockpiles are obviously there temporarily until they can get those tested and moved out. But obviously, yeah, we can protect those better with, there's various wraps and plastics you can put on them to secure that, so we will do so.
Thank you.
Have you run into any unknowns?
We have. I mean, it's a major construction contract, so obviously, yeah. I mean, there are always issues with underground. A lot of the utilities weren't where we thought they were, and just general underground has always been a challenge, and continues to be on this one as well. Not an unknown, but as you know, we experienced a much heavier than usual rain this year, and that was also a major impact to the project.
But so far, you're pretty much on schedule.
We are behind schedule. We lost approximately 2 months due to some heavy rain and to a couple of other activities that didn't go as quickly as we'd hoped. We're still projecting the same completion date, and we're attempting to catch up. So when I say 2 months, what I mean is 2 months on our internal milestone to cut in CP Scott. We're still on track at this time to meet the final completion, which is obviously everybody's goal. So in order to do that, we're going to have to expedite some work, carry through.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, we've been working on this with you for a number of years, so we're really looking forward to cutting a ribbon down there.
Yeah.
So, and I know you are too.
We'll get another train cake out for the...
Sounds good.
All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Okay, thank you.